We live in an era where the future of Western civilization rests largely in the hands of a few men. 5, to be exact. There's Sam, whose lab builds AI tools that are used by nearly 1 billion people every single week. There's Elon, who controls the world's most active digital public square and an entire fleet of commercial rockets. And Mark, who is currently pivoting his massive social media empire entirely toward artificial intelligence development. The concentration of this much power is historically rare. These men build systems that are actively being integrated into the military, shaping democratic discourse, and determining the very survival of the species. When a person reaches this level of extreme wealth, something shifts psychologically. They end up floating in a sensory deprivation tank the size of the planet, where their actions are no longer judged by the consequences they have on others. A few years ago, a writer attended an exclusive retreat hosted by Jeff Bezos. It was a private resort surrounded by heavy security, where billionaires mingled with artists and intellectuals to discuss how to make the world a better place. During the weekend, the writer's wife slipped on wet grass and broke her wrist. Immediately, a team of private security contractors whisked them to a back entrance of an emergency room for treatment. Later, the writer ran into Bezos and mentioned the accident. He wasn't complaining, he was just offering a brief human connection. Instead of offering any empathy, Bezos looked horrified and immediately fled behind an aide. This reaction illustrates the hubris of accomplishment, the belief that because you are a genius at one thing, you are a genius at everything. When you own enough that no level of loss could ever change your global standing, reality stops pushing back. You become free to treat other people as objects rather than fellow humans. Here lies an uncomfortable paradox. Despite the deep psychological detachment that extreme wealth creates, society consistently relies on these quasi-autocratic figures to bring new technologies to the masses. We saw this during the Gilded Age. Men like John D. Rockefeller ruthlessly consolidated oil and railways, building the very physical foundations of industrial capitalism. Or take Henry Ford and the 1908 Model T. Ford didn't invent the car, but he figured out how to produce it at an incredible scale, effectively creating mass consumerism. This graph maps his factory output to consumer behavior. As the Model T's price drops from $950 to $290, car ownership skyrockets. Adding a second axis shows how absolute control fueled rapid expansion. By 1925, Ford employed 0.15% of the U.S. population. History shows us a difficult truth. Wide-scale economic prosperity often requires the ambition of the tycoons that make us the most uneasy. But building the future requires an environment that stops teaching them to live in the present. The push to win at all costs can lead to terrifying behavior. Thomas Edison, for instance, staged gruesome public electrocutions of animals simply to convince Americans that his corporate rival's technology was dangerous. Today, this ruthlessness is being codified into a new philosophy. Elon Musk has explicitly called empathy the fundamental weakness of Western civilization, framing it as a backdoor that others use to exploit his resources. Moral reasoning develops through experiencing the effects your actions have on others. But when you can buy your way out of any mistake and fire anyone who disagrees with you, the mechanism by which humans learn that other people are real goes dark. For these figures, losing has lost its meaning. When Musk restructured the federal government as part of an inside joke he called Doge, he did so with the air of a man having fun. To him, the massive human stakes were secondary to the amusement of the exercise. When dealing with cars or steel, the stakes were physical, but artificial intelligence operates on a completely different level. It directly manipulates human reality and cognition. These new models possess the capacity to rewrite global labor markets and redefine the basic mechanisms we use to organize our democratic society. Relying on the own mind of an AI magnate to regulate this power is incredibly dangerous. These are individuals who are increasingly dissociated from the actual cause and effect of their decisions. We simply cannot entrust our collective future to the goodwill of men who view human empathy as a civilizational flaw. In the past, when wealth and power erased all natural limits, the state stepped in to artificially manufacture those consequences. When a monopoly grew too large to challenge, the Supreme Court ordered the complete breakup of Standard Oil into 34 independent companies as a response to corporate overreach. And after the market crash of 1907 exposed how deeply America relied on private banking titans for bailouts, the government stripped them of that sway by creating the Federal Reserve. It is not our job to wait patiently for billionaires to rediscover their humanity. It is the role of a functioning state to push back, hard, until they are forced to remember the rest of us exist.